Wakanda Forever. And I'm not even going to say which side of the fence that I really want to be on with that movie, but um, it's The Pollinator. And today I'm going to make two videos. The and I can't even, which one I want to make is unclear, so I'll just go for it and see what happens. But today is my 3-year, we call it Manniversary, for those transgender individuals who are male identified as men. I don't play that in between stuff. I never have really, and I mean, from as far back as I can remember, well, actually, well, when I was a preteen, I have liked women. But I was playing, trying to play the, we used to call it the numbers, but I was playing both sides of the fence so as not to be found out. But I have always been masculine. I did not understand what was going on when I was a child. I just knew something was off. And that I just hated everything about being a girl. But I didn't know how to articulate that at that age, from the time I was probably like 8 years old. I didn't know what to say or what to do about that. I mean, it was the 1960s. I had absolutely no idea that transgender people existed. And before that name was created in the 1990s, we were called transsexuals. And one of the men that I admire, one of the black trans men that I admire, oh no, his name just fell out of my head. I should have had that up on my computer before I even start talking. But he was a man in Arizona. He was out of Arizona. He was an international celebrity of a trans man. I can't find a lot of information out about this man because, I have this sneaking suspicion he did not pass away of natural causes, but he did write a document called Trans 101, and I used to hand that out, or I used to put that on social media for people to read. Oh, I just remembered of another social media community group that I can put that in for people to share with others, because dang, if I had known what was going on back before puberty happened, it would have saved me a lot of grief, because I was so confused. I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I went into some kind of strange state of denial that that I knew I was a boy until, well, I knew I was a boy, I knew I was a girl, I was all confused. My voice has always been very deep, and I remember getting pissed off because of my voice, and people would say that I was a boy. I would get pissed off at that. And then if people treated me like a girl, I got pissed off at that. So either way, I was totally confused. And I grew up in upper class neighborhood in the Midwest, and they had sex education in grade school. And we were too young to have that kind of class, because all the kids ever did, all we ever did was snicker through that whole class. And I don't even remember how long that class was, but they had these, I guess, plastic biology of the differences between boys and girls. And I sat in that class in total denial that the girls' parts were my parts. I was identifying with the boys' parts. And then they started talking about what was going to happen during puberty, and I zoned out again. It's like I didn't know what was going on except that, you know, it was embarrassing. The class was embarrassing, and we were embarrassed as kids for them to be talking about genitals in that class. And so I thought that if I worked out, that I would grow very nice pecs. I mean, that's just what was in my head. And it wasn't until the other things showed up that I began to understand, something malfunctioned. My sister used to say, what is your major malfunction? Well, I had a major malfunction when the opposite of pecs showed up, and my father, of all people, was the first to notice. And I told this story. I have never told this story out loud. I've told it to people in typing, but so he made a comment about them, and I was just mortified, absolutely mortified that he was the one that commented on them before my mother did, and and he said, "Well, I guess we're gonna have to go to the store and get a training bra." And I was like, I was not trying to hear that. And so he put me in a car. He took me to this, it used to be this old department store called Brandeis, which is very similar to Dillard's, places like that, Macy's. We didn't have Macy's back then. We had Brandeis, where I'm from. So he puts me in the car. And I remember just sitting there looking out the window, and I don't even know what I was thinking, but I did not want to be there in that car with him. And so he drove to the store. He drove to the department store, and he stopped the car, and I just sat there. Like, you know, he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him like, it wasn't that exact terminology, but I wasn't moving. And he was like, okay, so he takes some money out of his pocket, and he gives it to me, and he says, okay, go in and get your training bra. I said, no, I'm not going in there. And he says, well, I'm not going in there. And I was a powder. I was a powder when I was a kid. So I sat there with my lip all poked out, like, I don't want to go in there. And he was like, well, I'm not going in there. Get out of the car. And I'm sure, I don't know, you know, I get funny pictures in my head sometimes, like he literally had to push me out of the car because I wasn't getting out of that car, and I wasn't going in that store, and I did not want to go into the women's section of that store. But I got out of the car. I went in. I got this thing. Came back out. Got back in the car. Like this. And went back home. And I proceeded. I did not wear that thing. I didn't. I had no affinity for that fucking bra. And I refused to wear it, even though I had it. So I was around probably 12 or 13. Now this happened, I think, when I was 11 or 12. I think 12. So I proceeded to, you know, I played a lot of sports. I mean, I played everything. The only thing I did not do was play golf and tennis at the time, even though my mother made me start taking tennis lessons. But I was also on the track team, and I wanted to do the sports that the boys were doing, and they kept telling me I couldn't do them. And I would do them anyway. They didn't give me any credit for them. But I pole vaulted, and girls weren't allowed to pole vault. Well, fuck that. I was going to do it anyway. And I just, by myself, went out there on the track, and picked up a pole and learned how to pole vault. Didn't get to do it in a track meet, but I did it anyway. And I also wanted to play baseball. I didn't want to play softball. And sometime in grade school, okay, I'm going way back, but sometime in grade school, I did start playing baseball with the boys, and I was outfield. I was in the outfield, and somebody hit a really high pop up, and I got up under it, and the sun got in my eyes, and I missed the ball, and the ball smacked me right in the fucking nose. And it gave me a bloody nose, and I was mortified about that. It was like, oh my God, that hurt. Um, and after that, I stopped playing with the baseball and thought softballs were a lot easier on the body, but if you got hit with them anyway. So I was playing with a bunch of boys. I was playing football down the street from my house and one of the neighbors. And I'll never forget this kid's name, but his name was Ricky. And he was this big, I mean, that boy must have been like 200 pounds. And I was less than 100, okay? But I was very fast, and I was a pretty fast running back, so they would give me the ball often, or I was a wide receiver. I would, was able to catch the ball and run with it. So I'm playing with these boys. I was not wearing a bra, and I had a button-down shirt on. And they gave me the ball, and I took off. And Ricky was dead in my way, and he just pounced on me. He just landed square on me, flattened me like a fucking pancake. And when I got up, I think he knocked the wind out of me, so I was not aware that, guess what happened? My shirt popped open. And all the boys had stopped and were gawking and looking at me, and I caught my breath, looked down, and my shirt was wide open, and I grabbed it, dropped the ball, grabbed it, and took off running back home crying. The same day, a wasp stung me on the back on my way home because I went too close to somebody's wooden balcony, big ass wooden balcony. I ran under that thing. I got stung by a wasp. So I was embarrassed. I was humiliated, and I got stung by a wasp, and my mother had to take the stinger out of my back when I got home. But I came home crying, and she asked me what happened, and I don't even remember if I told her why I was crying. I think I let her believe that it was the wasp sting that had me in tears, but really it was the embarrassment of that moment. And I never played with those boys. I never played football with them again, because them boys was getting big, and I wasn't getting any bigger. I didn't start growing taller until I was in high school. And so for a long time, I was under 5 feet and less than 100 pounds. So it was, very dangerous to be playing with these big-ass fucking boys, because they were getting big fast and I wasn't. But again, I think back and all of the memories that I had that got awakened when I finally embraced who I am. I fought it for like 3 years. I refused to talk about it. I moved to the area I live in now and told my therapist that I thought I was a trans man, but I didn't want to talk about it. And she was very excited because she had clients that were transgender, and I was not thrilled with the idea of being this at all. And the reason was because, I remember the big hubbub and stink that happened when I came out in the 80s, in the latter 70s, as a lesbian, and that was not a good time. A lot of crazy things happened, and as I looked around the country and I saw all of the hatred being expressed about transgender people, that was the last thing I wanted to be. So I was like, I don't want to talk about this. And she would bring it up every like 3 months or so. Every 3 or 4 months, she would say, let's talk about this. Um, let's talk about this transgender thing. And I said, no, let's not. And she said, okay. Um, but then I would come home and jump on my computer and research. Every day I did that for for 3 years. Well, 2 years. I did it for 2 years. And there was just something about it that spooked me, and I don't remember what it was. I guess the physical side effects that it could have, that I haven't experienced, but at the time I was looking for any reason not to embrace this, okay? I didn't want to be one more thing. I was already black. I was already experienced too much racism in my life. I'd already experienced too much homophobia from thinking I was a lesbian. I'd been there, done that, and I was in my 50s. So the last thing I wanted to do was step off into another arena where I didn't know what was going to happen, and I didn't know at my age either what testosterone was going to do to my body. I just was not trying to hear it. I wasn't trying to talk about it, and I wasn't trying to embrace it. But, you know, it was pretty much no different than me trying to deny I liked women. You know, people who think that it's a choice to turn on your... For people who think it's a choice whether or not, who they're attracted to, they're absolutely nuts. You can't make yourself be attracted to something you're not attracted to, any more than, say for instance, people who are into BDSM, or people who are into, I don't want to get kinky with it because I'm not like that, but, you know, I'm aware of people that are into some very bizarre things, and they don't just wake up and decide they're going to be attracted to things that they're attracted to. That is a physiological impossibility. So when people think that you wake up one day and decide, oh, I think I'll be attracted to the opposite sex, I think I'll be attracted to the same sex, I think I'll be attracted to both sexes, that is not how the libido works. You can't be attracted to something you're not. No matter what the fuck happens to you, no matter whether abuse happens to you, no matter, you know, a lot of people think, you must have been abused by men and that's why you like women, and it's like, no. I'm just turned on by them. I'm not turned on by men. I'm turned on by women. And I was just playing the man thing just to satisfy society, to satisfy my parents, to satisfy my friends, you know, just to be undercover about the fact that I liked girls. Well, how the heck do you be undercover about being a trans man? That's more impossible than whether you're LGBTQ or not. You could hide that. I mean, you just don't have to talk about your life. You don't have to put pictures in your office. You don't have to reveal that shit. But with being transgender, there's this thing called hormones that you got to get from somewhere. So somebody is going to know what you are. But even when I was living as a quote-unquote lesbian, I remember GYN appointments. Ugh. I had one time where this lady asked me, the doctor was a female, and she asked me, are you pregnant? And I said, no, that's not possible. And she said, she got stuck on that and was going to try to find out why I said that. And she said, well, what do you mean that's not possible? I said, it's not possible. And she wouldn't let it go. And she kept on asking me, how could I be so sure? Or whatnot. I said, well, because I don't have sex with men. And she said, excuse me? And I said, because I'm a lesbian. She went, oh, I see. And put her head back down in the paper. And then when she's doing her doing the examination, she kept looking at me. And I looked at her like, oh, excuse me, this has never been pleasant. This has never been something that I like. And I akined it. Oh, this is going to be disgusting, but I got to say it. Because one of my GYNs found it extremely funny. I mean, she couldn't stop laughing. But I said before the appointment, oh, so you're going to do the umbrella thing? And she said, what? I said, you know, umbrellas, sticking in, open that thing up. And she was like, oh my God, I'd never heard anybody say that before. Now, look, I've been outrageous for a long time. It did not take testosterone for me to become this way. It was my work with landmark education that just sprung me out the box. But anyway, this GYN was looking at me like I was enjoying that examination, which I absolutely hate. Being born in the wrong body is no easy thing to deal with. On so many levels, it is not. And anybody who thinks that we wake up and choose this they're the ones that are mentally ill, not us. This is not a choice. I fought this. I didn't want to do it. 2 years after I was aware of it, I made an appointment with my, I told my PCP that I thought I was a transgender man, and could she make an appointment with an endocrinology doctor? And she said, okay. This is at the VA. And she said, okay, well, I guess I talked a little bit about it, and she asked me why I felt that way, and blah, 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 and I told her because I feel that nothing has ever been right since I even became aware of my gender. It was never right from the time I was a child. And so she set the appointment up, and that was in 2014. And for some reason, I wasn't ready, and I canceled the appointment. So it took another year before I was good and ready. And I had to tell at least one other person that this is how I felt inside. And she happened to be in Nigeria, the one that I told. So it wasn't like a imminent threat to my environment to tell her. And she didn't even bat an eyelash. She didn't even bat an eye. Literally didn't even flinch when I told her. And that was in 2015, in the beginning of 2015. But I still hadn't told the world what I was. I just told her. And I continued, and I started opening up in therapy about it. So I was no more. At one point, she asked me one time to talk about it, and I said, look, I'll be a lesbian the rest of my life. I don't fucking care. I mean, it had such a, I was so scared to embrace this. I didn't want to. I didn't want to be hated all over again. I didn't want to be misunderstood all over again. I didn't want to be the odd man out all over again. I didn't want anything that was going to come with this, even though I didn't know exactly what people's reactions would be. But I knew that I was also have been in a 14-year depression, and I didn't need one more thing to worry about. And because I was so isolated. And I shouldn't even say that because I've got some fucking twit of a twerpy employee of a Facebook platform who won't stop fucking with my account. And they know they're trying to isolate me. They're trying to keep me from getting information out about for black people and to help my organization grow. They are trying to stymie everything. So even to mention that part of my depression was in isolation is scary, because whoever this employee is is bent on tormenting me and has no conscience whatsoever that they're doing this. I'm in fucking group jail right now, back to back this month for no reason, not that I know of. They never tell me why. They never say anything to me because they know I'm hot on their trail trying to find somebody to fight these assholes. So I was in a depression, and it even goes deeper than that, but I'm not gonna say what. And I just didn't need anymore. My life was so in a box, and I had backed myself up into a box that I did not want to deal with any ramifications of that were gonna be like an electric shock to my life. But I could not deny this any more than I could deny that I am into women, that I am attracted to women, not to men. I did play with some men and stuff like that, but it was, again, it was like more of a cover-up and more like a penis envy type of thing. I never really loved a man. I had a really big crush on a guy when I was in my mid-teens for a couple of years, but that was it. I introduced him to my father, but I was the side thing I was a side piece for him, and it was still kind of a weird relationship because the roles were kind of reversed or kind of weird like that. I was a stud, and so I didn't do girlish things with this guy. He didn't expect it of me because he had a woman who was the main chick, and so it didn't bother him that because I was a dish anyway at that age, and he didn't care where I was coming from because I was not the main thing, never was going to be the main item in his life. I remember his name too. I've lost track of him. I don't even know if he's still alive. He's only a few, well, he was too old for me. When I was a teenager, when I was a minor, I wasn't allowed to go out with adults. But I did it anyway. I was a rebellious kid, just like any other kid. And I got into drugs way too early. Well, some people get into drugs even way younger than I did, but I was 15 when I started that. And lost my virginity the same year, which was a nightmare. But, so I kind of lost where I was. I was talking about choosing to be transgender, choosing to be lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer. I'm not even sure what all them other acronyms are, but we are sexual beings. We are animals. They all do it. No matter what rules and regulations and crap you have, whatever country you live in, there are societal parameters that say you shall only have this kind of sex. And then if you fall outside of those parameters, you're in for a ride of your life. These parameters not only involve sexuality, but gender. And the cisgender community's got that all goofed up too. They think we're all gay. They refuse to see the gender part, so they continue to see the sexuality part, and they think we're all lesbians, but men. And those two don't go together. You're not a man and a lesbian. Now, that's where this non-binary stuff comes into me. They could probably still hang on to that label and it not bother them because their gender did not change. So this last 3 years, I've done it alone, even though I had a partner at the time who never ever supported my transition, even though she knew when she met me, because the 30th of October is when I started testosterone, and I met her in her home state, October 23rd. And so I came back here after I met her and started my transition, and I was really excited. And for a long time, I felt very euphoric. And as time has gone on, as the climate of the country has gone on, has changed, has gotten ugly, has gotten ridiculous, racism is rampant. The asshole that the Electoral College elected is after everybody who isn't white Anglo-Saxon male. I mean, he's after everybody. That is one sick motherfucker, and anybody who's one of his followers is as sick as he is. That man is evil, and he is creating division, divide, and conquer tactics in this country. He's getting everybody fighting with everybody. I mean, he's just poison for an already complicated country. You know, this is the melting pot of the world. You know, you got every kind of person here. You've got every kind of religion here. You've got everything in the United States of America, which makes it different than a lot of other continents and a lot of other countries, because we've got this huge mixture of people here from every facet of every life is in this country. And other countries from the outside looking in don't understand that. They don't understand what the problem is, you know, what all these terms are that you guys talk about. What is that all about? They don't understand it, because in their countries, you know, there's only this kind of primary religion and maybe a secondary one there. There may be different ethnicities of people, but they don't use the word race in some of the other countries. They do in Europe, because this bullshit came from there. But in a lot of other places, they don't use it. Australia, they use it. Other parts of Europe, they use it. But in the Far East, I don't think there is a word called race. That word got created during slavery, okay, and they've been using it and kicking us in the teeth with it ever since. So my transition, as I've developed what a man means to me, what kind of man that I am an alpha male, and that has been an evolution. That has been a process that I have gone through, looking at, observing a lot of different males. I don't get opportunity to talk to very many cis males. I don't have any. Do I have any? Well, I've got, you know, people on social media, but that's not like somebody you hang out with and you can ask questions of and you blah, 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 or that kind of thing. I'll tell you a fun fact about me. I'm scared to death of my razor. I have a kit that's been sitting in there for 2.5 years. I don't know how to shave. I didn't get to learn this crap when I was a teenager, you know, by men, acceptingly by men. You know, as it is now, I'd have to literally force some cisgender man to show me how to do it. I can't get my ties right. Sometimes I get them right. Sometimes I get them wrong. We are self-made men. We have to learn this shit by rote. And I was 58 years old when I started this journey. And sometimes that makes me sad, because I didn't get to grow up in a world that even knew we existed. But on the flip side of that, one thing that I'm grateful for is that I know who I am. I'm not trying to figure life out and then start testosterone, which is going to flip your emotions and your thinking and your mentality and all that stuff, and then be trying to work on your career and trying to do all these other things while you're in that transition. I don't know what's better, to be young, dumb, and full of calm and go into this, or be a wise old man and go into this. Um, Comparisons are not a good thing to do anyway. I mean, one of the biggest things that they do on social media is, compare who's got what kind of hair where, who's had surgeries, who hasn't. And meanwhile, all of these people are ignoring their inner selves. They're ignoring their heart. They're ignoring their emotions. They're ignoring their mentality. Now, that I've been working on since I was 26 years old. Well, I've been working on it all my life, but I, intensified that when I got clean and sober in 1983. So I've done a lot of emotional and mental work that kind of threw me into being a little out of step with my peers. But now, oh my God, the median age around the internet is in their 30s. So people like me going into this are far and few between, especially black ones. I became an international mentor. I became a father of many men, women, and others. I've got daughters, I've got sons, and I've got, I don't know what I'll call the gender non-conforming ones. They don't have a word for that yet, which is one of the problems I have with them, is that they're not building language around that. They're taking words that mean other words in English and then adopting them without taking into account the many other gender of the binary words in language. So, I mean, every country on the planet has binary words, yet they got an attitude, an issue with binary people. That makes no sense because everybody had to be created from that. Human beings, anyway. There are other kinds of species that have. Did you know that ants have like 4 or 5 genders of ants? Everybody needs to go look up a little science here, do a little science research, because this issue that people are having with binary, non-binary, all this stuff is just bullshit, because guess what? Biologically speaking, there are more than one gender, 2 genders in a lot of species, including this one. A lot of that side has not built the language around it. So, and then they got nerve, a lot of them, to be fucking downright TERFs and feminists, and they have issues with men. So there's a lot of fighting going on between binary and non-binary people, and I am just so not down for that. If I even see it coming, I'm like stamping it out immediately, because why argue about this? Why hate one another and use that as another reason to be divided? Now, when I see this sort of thing, it does make me take a step back and not want to fucking be associated with them. I don't want to socialize with them, and I don't want to be associated with them, because they have issues. I don't have an issue with them if they don't have an issue with me, but if they have an issue with me, I'm distancing myself, because issues is the definition of dysfunction. Now, within the past 3 years, another awakening has arisen in me, which is the fire that I had and that I was taught and then I saw and then I learned growing up, which was during the civil rights movement. That has awakened in me. I am pro-black. Doesn't mean I hate white people, but it means I don't have much of an affinity for them, and too many of them are being complicit. They are being silent about what is going on in this country right now. They think I don't notice them, but I notice every single one of them that used to call themselves my friend, who used to, who calls themselves my friend. I feel their distance. I feel their complicity. I feel their silence. Whether they want me to or not, I feel it. We all do. We all know somebody in our family who would much rather act like this shit is not happening when it happens. It has happened to me all of my life. And I've had things happen to me all of my life that will be in my book. Well, half of it is, and I haven't written the other half of the book. So So yeah, I became Black Power all over again because of the current mood in the nation. Well, not really because of that, but because the black man woke up. And that's another thing that's been a real trip is to go from living a life that was that where people perceive me as a woman to a life where they perceive me as a man. That whole thing, wow. Um, it's just a what a life. I have led a full, very full, rich, not in money, but in here. I have been very studious. I've always been a student of life, um, which also sets me apart from a lot of my peers that don't. They just believe whatever some bullshit somebody tells them instead of looking it up and researching it. But so I've got a lot going on right now, and I really didn't even want to make this vlog today because I'm not feeling my best. There's things that I need to change, and I don't have the finances to do them. My car is in trouble. My business got halted by my eye surgery, and there's just a lot of things going on where I'm not feeling tip top. But I still make it a point to make people laugh, to bring joy to people's lives who I can make that kind of difference in their life. If they're not joyful people, I'm not likely to want to bring too much joy to them. But when I'm out in public, I'm just outrageous. I do a lot of strange, crazy things to make people laugh. I laugh. I learn to laugh at myself. See, that to me is the difference between being mature and immature. Is can you laugh at your own absurdities? Can you laugh? Do you have any humor about your flaws? Or are you just hanging on to them and in denial and you're ready to fight about them? That to me is the difference between being mature and immature. Is being willing to take a realistic look and soul search with yourself about how you are and how you show up in the world, how you show up in intimate relationships, which is a far cry different than how you show up to your friends and to your family and to maybe your children. That just pushes different buttons than your everyday living, your co-workers, your bosses, your business partners, your employees. I mean, that's over there somewhere. And then how you show up in intimacy is over here. So it's very easy for people to trick themselves into thinking that they don't got to deal with self ever. But God has a way, life has a way of waking some people up and evolving, and some people he doesn't. And I have evolved in almost every area of my life since I started transitioning. It woke me up. Oh, by the way, it did. The depression that I was in, the very, very intense part of the depression that I was in, I snapped out of it when I began living myself authentically. I mean, it lightened up so much that I became functional again. I became able to love again. A lot of things changed because of this. And for that, I'm truly grateful for the pioneers and the people who led the way, the trailblazers who led the way for us to be able to at least have this country be partially accepting. Because in other countries, guess what? You can get killed for this shit. Not Europe, but in not Europe, not Canada, not Australia, even though I've heard some pretty interesting things about that place. But in all the other countries, it is literally a crime to be anything LGBT. So, so I'm glad that I came into this, or embraced this in the United States, because here it's not illegal to to be prescribed HRT, and it's not illegal for surgeries. Even though the surgeries, there's a few good surgeons here for top surgery, but the bottom, they're way better at it in Europe. They may even be better at top surgery in Europe, for all I know. I haven't really looked into that because there's so many that do, are proficient with that here. But so this is my Manniversary vlog. I'd rather be in a relationship, but I no longer am going to just take what I can get. I'm worth more than that. I have to value myself worth more than that, than just to be with somebody for the sake of being with them. I'm too old. I'm getting too old to play that shit anymore, even though a lot of people are still playing at being in relationships and they're not. Especially when you're one of the LGBTQ plus. Those are the toughest dynamics. And then you can add in being black. The toughest dynamics of intimacy that you can have in this nation, because we have so many more pressures to deal with than people who are not black and people who are straight or cisgender, heterosexual, whatever you want to put, spin you want to put on that, or words you want to put on that. Life is more stressful living differently than it is, the morally acceptable gender and sexuality and race. Although white is not normal. Did I say that? Oh, yes, I did. I need a little melanin. Why I look the way that I do, I'm thinking of wearing hats, but people cannot tell my age at all, and they don't believe me when I tell them, and I still get carded for various things. Having melanin in your skin and having the melanin gene, many of us age more gracefully. And both of my parents looked young as they got older. So my mom didn't get a chance. I mean, she passed when she was 55, but she looked great even at that age. I've got a picture over here of her when she was about 54, I think, 54 or 53. But I just wanted to, golly, I can't see. I don't know what time it is. I don't know how long I've been talking. I know it's been a while. So I'm going to shut this down. By the way, I've taken to putting this little, I don't know which side it's on, but you'll see it on the page to where you can subscribe if you want to see other videos that I make. Please subscribe, and then you click this bell to get notifications when I upload a public video. And also, I found something out yesterday that hitting that like button exposes my videos to more people. I don't know exactly how that works because I haven't looked it up, but I just heard it on somebody else's video yesterday, that hitting that button makes these things on YouTube more visible. I don't know how it works yet. So if you liked, even if you could relate to even a little piece of it, I'd appreciate it if you did hit that like button. Not everybody that subscribes to my channel can I even see, because if you don't have a public Google account, I'm not even gonna know you're there. So feel free, and likes, we can't see who's liking anything either. All we see is statistics of the like button. But the way the algorithm works is it makes your channel more visible in the world, if that makes sense. But we can't even see who's liking anything. So, rest assured that I'm definitely not out to know anything about you unless you reach out to me personally. And if you see me out there, stop by, make a comment or whatever. Happy Manniversary to the pollinator, number 3. Everybody have a blessed rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'm going to flip over to another video, talk about something else.